Brian Sowers, the voice of Crappie Masters, along with you, and alongside my good friend Bradley Shedd, the voice of Ethanol, as a matter of fact. And we get a chance to talk today about the benefits of E10 fuel in your boat. There's a lot of myth, there's a lot of misconception, there's a lot of fact, there's a lot of fiction. We're here to kind of separate that for you a little bit today. Bradley, first off, I want to ask you, one of the biggest things that I hear outside of people who don't like ethanol, we'll put it that way, is that all this stuff gums up their carburetors, gums up their lines, just tears their boat up. The fact of the matter is, true or false, the gas blends have changed so much in the past, even 10 years, 20 years more, that it's not your grandpa's gas anymore.
Absolutely true. We have seen, well, first of all, they took out lead back in the early 90s, right, and needed to, both for air quality, water quality. The lead that was in there was not good. But since then, we have seen even more significant changes. Now we're seeing aromatics. The oil isn't the same as what it used to be, and so whenever they're refining, they're having to use aromatics to bring that octane up. And aromatics are benzene, xylene, and toluene, which are bad. They're corrosive for your motor. They're also bad for the environment. They're a carcinogen, and they're not good for the environment or health. And ethanol is also an octane provider, and is a lot cleaner and safer to use. So,
is it true that some of these, like benzene and toluene, are actually enzymes per se that can break down a tire?
Absolutely. Toluene they use in tire manufacturing to break down rubber. So if it's going to break down rubber in tire manufacturing, what's it going to do to your fuel line? So most definitely it is a problem, but those aromatics increase the octane that they need to be able to sell it to you. But we feel that a better option to use is ethanol.
So actually ethanol is not gumming up your lines and gumming up your carburetor. It's actually an issue to where there was a problem already existing, it just cleaned it out and exposed it.
Yeah, so the gum and varnish that's produced is gasoline going bad. Whenever gasoline goes bad, it produces those gum and varnish. Attaches to your fuel line and inside your carburetor, your jets that are inside there, or anything else that's inside your fuel system. And that's actually reducing the amount of fuel going to the engine, which can cause a whole nother host of issues to that engine. But ethanol has nothing to do with it. It's the gasoline today is not being stabilized.
Does ethanol become kind of that, let's just blame this because it's the easiest thing to blame it on?
Absolutely. The problem is the oil industry has spent millions and actually billions of dollars putting a myth out there saying that ethanol is the problem. Meanwhile, they changed the formulation of gasoline, and that's actually what's causing it. But they don't tell the truth because we're taking market share for it.
What about phase separation? Well, I hear that a lot too, especially in the boating industry, which, you know, we're out here trying to push using E10 safely in your fuel, which, by the way, for 3.5 years, every winning team on the Crappie Masters Tournament Trail has been safely using E10, but phase separation comes up invariably all the time. What's the real story about phase separation?
So phase separation can happen with or without ethanol in the tank. But it has to be introduced some other form. Ethanol cannot pull enough moisture out of the air to cause itself to phase separate. What happens though with whenever you've got ethanol in there, you actually it pulls the ethanol away from the gasoline. The water does if you introduce water some other way. So you want to make sure to have a fuel water separator on your boat, but also again, it's not the problem with ethanol. It happens with or without ethanol in there. So just making sure to keep your fuel fresh and clean is the main goal.
I've been in this business a long time. One of the things that I think really not only intrigues me, but I think is so important is the fact that you have children, I have grandchildren. I love where we're at here. We're at the Lake of the Ozarks right now. I want that opportunity for my kids to be able to swim in the water. I want them to be able to fish in the water. I want them to be able to harvest fish from that water. You know, with this and without that, it's a totally different deal. So the environmental and conservation aspects are huge when it comes to using E10 fuel.
Absolutely. This lake is my home lake, and love it. You know, love being on it and everything. And so I want to be able to pass it on cleaner than what we received it. These farmers are doing everything they can to produce this corn, to produce the ethanol as clean as possible. We're seeing a 40% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions whenever used in cars or motors or whatever.
Sure.
So that is a huge savings for our environment that a lot of people don't know about, and it's good for the environment, good for these lakes that whenever you're running your boat up and down the water, you're not pumping those toxic emissions into the lake. You're using a cleaner fuel, E10.
I've taken the time, as you know, to study this. I've looked at the Oklahoma State studies. I've looked at all the different scientific, and I want to stress that, scientific studies that have been done. And they talk about stabilization. Are we actually stabilizing the ethanol, or are we stabilizing the gas?
You're stabilizing gasoline. Ethanol does not need to be stabilized. It's a stable fuel. You don't have any issues with it. The gasoline today is typically used in your car very quickly, so you don't have to worry about it. But the generality of a boat or small engine, now these professional anglers, they use their boat a lot more. But the general consumer is only using their boat during the summertime, their small engine, their lawnmower, whatever, blower in the summertime, and they don't use it in the fall and winter, and even until the spring comes around. So that fuel sitting there can produce gum and varnish, and also actually start producing peroxides. You're also losing octane whenever that gasoline sits there. So if your motor is going to sit there, that fuel is going to sit there longer than 10 days, I most definitely recommend you stabilize that gasoline.
What about other engines, small engines especially? I hear a lot of people say, well, it tore up my chainsaw, it tore up my lawnmower and all that.
It's the same exact myths that are going on with boats today. People a lot of times don't maintain their fuel quality or their small engine. It's an afterthought. They want to get their yard mowed and they want to go on to something else, and so they don't maintain their fuel. And the thing about it is, the fuel of today is not what we used to have.
Right.
And so you've got to make sure to maintain that fuel, because we've got a different quality fuel than what we used to.
Absolutely. There's a lot of fact and there's a whole lot of fiction going on here right now. How can people really find out the truth about this?
We've got some information on our page at mocorn.org. Ethanol RFA has a good website that you can go and find more information about. If you Google ethanol in Oklahoma State University, you'll find a study on small engines there. There's a lot of information out there. We're working on a more consumer-friendly website as well, and we'll add that in the future.
You know what? I love the fact that you're supporting America's farmers and you're supporting America. And when you're talking about reliance on foreign oil, that takes that down a little bit. And that's an important thing too.
Absolutely is. It's very important to me as I've become a part of the ethanol family and the corn family in my job. But it's very important that I see that you see all these family farmers out there that are trying to produce both our feed, food, and as well as our fuel. It's a better, more efficient fuel for an internal combustion engine, and we're just trying to compete, and help America out.
You betcha. Feed the world. That's the best thing we can do.
Absolutely.
And also have the best fuel that's available out there too.
Absolutely.
Bradley, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
There you go. Bradley Shadd with the Missouri Corn Growers Association. And again, go ahead and find out the facts for yourself. Again, go to mocorn.org and ethanolrfa.org. And again, get the truth, not the fiction.